Hello and welcome to our next video. In this lesson, we're going to get SQL Server 2017 Express Edition. So I typed that as a Google search, and this is where I ended up on Microsoft.com, EN-US SQL Server Editions Express. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on Download Now and get this started. And so once that's downloaded, we can go ahead and start installing it on our machine. Go ahead and say yes. And this will bring up our installation dialog for the SQL Server 2017 Express Edition. And so you see there are a number of options. The basic includes just the SQL Server database without any configuration. The custom is going to let you do some configuration, and the download just basically downloads it in the background and lets you get that over and over again on everything on different machines. So go ahead and select Custom, so that we can make sure that we get the version and everything that we want to have installed. And so we're going to go ahead and just install it to its default location here that it gave us. You could change that if you desire. And this will take some time, once again, to get the installation package downloaded and installed. So what we're going to do is pause the video, and I will come back when the next step is ready to be taken. Alright, so the tools are downloaded and I'm on the installation phase. I'm obviously going to do a new SQL Server standalone installation, but I want to point out a couple of other things here. If you want reporting services, you can install that. And ultimately, we're going to want SQL Server Management Studio, so we're going to want that, but I feel like we'll probably get that through a separate download. And there's SQL Server Data Tools, which allows you to put some integration in Visual Studio for some certain things that you could do as well. So you can get these all through this installation. But what we're going to do right here is we're going to do the new SQL Server standalone. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that started. And we'll go ahead and accept the license terms. Make sure you read through the EULA, of course, and go ahead and check Next. And then we can allow Microsoft Update to check for updates in the future because they will be updating SQL Server as we go. So we'll want to do that. And it looks like I have a warning for my firewall here. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to go ahead and check Next. And here you can see some different things that we can install. So what we definitely want to do is leave everything they have checked just so that we don't miss anything. We probably don't need machine learning or anything like that for what we're doing, but you may want it in the future. And so let's go ahead and just leave that going. And so you can see down here there is the local DB, a lightweight version of SQL Server Express Database Engine. Has the same programmability features. It starts on demand and runs in user mode. And so basically this is designed for developers. It gives you a chance to have a local version of SQL Server running, makes it very lightweight. And so this is essentially probably what we wanted to have in order to make it work through Visual Studio as well, if you don't want to have a full version of SQL Server running on your machine. So I'm going to actually leave this unchecked because I'm going to be using the full version of Express going forward. Change, but if you want, you could try checking that and playing around with it. So we're going to go ahead and hit Next. And now what we're going to do is name our instance. So you could change the name of the instance if you wanted. This is especially important if you're already running a different version of SQL Server Express and you wanted to have side-by-side versions. So if you had 2016 or earlier version up and running, you may want to rename this something different. I'm going to go ahead and leave it default at SQL Express, and the instance ID is just all caps SQL Express. But again, you could rename that anything you wanted to. It will be important later if you want to specifically name your instance when you start your database connection through Management Studio tools. You can see here also what's important is that it is going to install to program files Microsoft SQL Server. The version is actually 14 and SQL Express, and so that'll be fine. All of that is good right out of the box. And then we're going to do a little bit of configuration. And so here you can see some different stuff. You could set your database engine to be disabled or manual, which would mean you need to trigger it, or you can have it start at boot. And the same thing with this browser. We'll just leave that disabled. We'll leave these the way they are. And then we're going to use the basic Latin collation, so we're going to be good there. And we're not going to worry about this perform volume maintenance task privilege to SQL Server Database Engine Service. So this is probably going to be one of the most important pages because we're going to actually go with mixed mode. So if we start out of the box with just Windows authentication mode, that's great. But then if we want to use a database user through a named connection string, we need mixed mode. So we're going to need to do that. And in order to do that, we're also going to need to give a default SQL Server System Administrator account, the SA account. And you just give it some password that you'll easily remember. And you can see here that you have the named administrators as well. This is going to be my personal user on my computer that I'm using to build this, and that's fine. But either one should be able to log in. So since I'm in mixed mode, I don't need to use a named account. I should be able to log in with my regular Windows account, and I'm the administrator. But also I would be able to log in with this SA account with that password I just typed. And obviously you don't want to use the SA account to be your user for your web application. That'd be a bad idea. So you probably don't need Microsoft R, so if you didn't do this step, you'd be just fine. Again, same thing with Python. We're probably not using any of that for anything we're going to do. And now the installation finally begins. So once again, I will pause the video and step away, and when this completes, I will be back. All right, and so we can see that everything has completed. I do want to note that during the installation, it hung, or it looked like it hung at 100% for quite some time. So if that happens, just be patient. It just took a little while to complete. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and close it, and I should be installed. And so I should be able to check that just by looking at my processes. So what I'm going to do is just quickly type in services, and that's going to bring up my services console. And I'm just going to look for Microsoft SQL Server here, or SQL Server Management Studio Express, or SQL Server Express, excuse me. And so you can see that it's there and it is running. So I do have an active version of SQL Server on my machine ready to go. So the next thing I need to do is get Management Studio Express to make sure that I can validate that and be able to interact with my database without being in Visual Studio. But that wraps up this video on getting SQL Server 2017 Express installed on our machine. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.